When it comes to uncovering hidden truths, most people make a critical mistake. They believe that gathering more evidence, conducting endless surveillance, or launching into interrogation will eventually force the truth to the surface. But reality doesn't usually bend to that method. Human beings are deeply skilled at masking their emotions, at rationalizing their behavior, and at constructing elaborate narratives that protect them from exposure. If you go about it directly, especially with someone who is intent on hiding something, you often encounter resistance, manipulation, or outright lies. That's why in circumstances of betrayal, particularly when you suspect a partner might be cheating, the solution isn't found in confrontation or accusation. It's found in the artful, deliberate asking of one single, well-crafted question. The brilliance of a well-designed question is that it bypasses the superficial level of communication where deceit thrives. A question, if formulated correctly, doesn't merely invite an answer, it forces an emotional and psychological reckoning. It pulls the hidden self into view, often without the person even realizing it. Rather than pressing for a confession, the right question acts like a key, unlocking deeper truths hidden beneath layers of defense. It becomes immediately apparent, not because the answer itself is a confession, but because of how the answer is given, the tone, the hesitation, the anger, the confusion, the guilt. Every micro expression, every flicker of discomfort, every forced calmness becomes a signal. The problem most people face is that they ask the wrong questions. They ask, "Are you cheating on me?" which invites only one of two responses, either a denial or a justification. The denier is prepared for that. They have their answers ready. They have mentally rehearsed them. They have layered their mind with justifications that allow them to lie without feeling the full moral weight of their actions. It becomes a performance, a way of maintaining the illusion while still protecting themselves from shame. But a question that targets the deeper structure of the relationship, the shared meaning, the core of mutual respect and loyalty, that kind of question is almost impossible to answer dishonestly without giving away internal conflict. When you ask a question like, "Are you proud of the life we're building together?" or "Do you feel you're still living in alignment with the promises we made?" you are not merely asking for information. You are demanding a self-assessment. You are inviting the person to reflect, perhaps unwillingly, on the internal fracture between who they once were and who they have become. The reason this method is so powerful lies in the nature of the human conscience. Despite all the mechanisms people develop to numb guilt or rationalize betrayal, very few can completely silence the inner voice that knows when something is wrong. That voice leaks out. It leaks out in nervous laughter, in avoiding eye contact, in defensive anger, in an overcompensating enthusiasm, or in the sudden urge to change the subject. The body betrays what the words conceal. Moreover, the pressure of a single penetrating question can fracture the fragile psychological structure that the betrayer has built to protect themselves. They often live in a split reality, one where they tell themselves that what they're doing is excusable, and another where they know, deep down, that it's a profound violation of trust. When you deliver a question that forces those two realities to collide, the emotional cost of maintaining the lie skyrockets. Many people in that moment can't maintain their composure. Their emotional incongruence between the story they are trying to tell and the reality they are living becomes visible. But there's another element at play here, equally important, your demeanor when asking the question. If you ask in anger, if you accuse or demand, you trigger defensiveness. The mind of the guilty person snaps into survival mode, and you end up battling their defensive strategies rather than encountering their deeper truth. But if you ask calmly, sincerely, almost as a philosophical inquiry into the state of the relationship, you lower their guard. You create a space where honesty or the inability to maintain the facade is more likely to emerge naturally. This isn't manipulation, it's clarity. It's giving the other person an opportunity to reveal themselves without force, without escalation. It's respecting yourself enough to seek the truth without degrading yourself in the process. It's understanding that trust, once broken, cannot be repaired through coercion or desperation, but only through honesty, whether it leads to reconciliation or separation. It's also important to prepare yourself emotionally for the answer, whatever it may be. If you ask a question that aims for the soul of the relationship, you must be willing to hear a soul-level response, even if it shatters you. You must steel yourself against the temptation to argue, to plead, or to deny what you hear or perceive. Your goal is not to convince them to stay or to justify your own worth. Your goal is to stand in the dignity of truth, even if it costs you the relationship. In this way, asking the right question is not merely a tactic, it's a test of your own character. It demands emotional discipline, self-respect, and a commitment to reality over comfort. It forces you to rise above the petty need to control the other person's behavior and instead focus on aligning yourself with what is real, even if it is painful. Thus, in the context of betrayal, a single question, carefully crafted, honestly asked, and patiently listened to, can do what endless suspicion, arguments, and investigations cannot. It can reveal the truth, not by direct force, but by creating a space where lies cannot comfortably live. It is a surgical strike at the heart of deception, and it leaves you, the one who asked, stronger, wiser, and far more free than you would ever be trying to chase down proof in a desperate spiral. Ultimately, it is not about exposing the other person merely for the sake of justice. It is about exposing the truth for the sake of your own integrity, your own future, and your own peace. Because once you know, truly know, you are no longer trapped by doubt or fear. You can choose your path forward with the full power of clarity on your side. When a relationship is healthy, emotional harmony exists between partners. A natural, often unspoken alignment in feelings, intentions, and values. This harmony creates a kind of emotional resonance, a rhythm that flows easily between two people who trust and love each other. But when betrayal enters the picture, this resonance is shattered. The emotional dissonance that follows is subtle but powerful, and it's one of the most revealing signs of infidelity or deep secrecy. While words can be fabricated and actions rehearsed, true emotional alignment is almost impossible to fake convincingly over time. It leaks through in the smallest gestures, the tone of voice, the timing of responses, and the involuntary micro-expressions that betray the hidden truth. Emotional dissonance refers to the internal conflict a person experiences when their outward behavior, words, or appearance contradict what they feel inside. For a woman who is cheating, this dissonance is a constant draining strain. Her inner world is fragmented between loyalty to her partner and the secret she keeps hidden. This split creates a form of cognitive and emotional tension that surfaces in many subtle ways that often go unnoticed by those not paying close attention, but that can be exposed by carefully chosen questions. Unlike direct accusations or confrontations that invite defensive denial, questions designed to tap into emotional dissonance provoke a spontaneous response that reveals more than words alone can. When asked about loyalty, commitment, or the shared future, a woman hiding betrayal will often react with a hesitation, a shift in tone, or even a moment of silence. Those brief cracks in her composure where the hidden truth struggles to stay buried. These signs aren't just random nervous tics. They are unconscious signals sent by the brain's emotional centers, revealing a conflict between the truth she holds inside and the image she tries to project. The most insightful way to spot this dissonance is to listen beyond the content of her words and observe the congruence between what she says and how she says it. For example, if she speaks about the relationship in warm, reassuring terms, but her eyes avoid contact or her voice tightens at certain phrases, this inconsistency can be a red flag. Or if she expresses love and loyalty verbally, but her body language conveys distance, crossed arms, turning away, or restless movements, these physical clues betray the emotional split. And there's also the element of timing. Emotional dissonance can cause delays in answering questions or overly rapid responses intended to cover discomfort. When someone feels caught between honesty and deception, their brain scrambles to construct a plausible answer, often causing subtle pauses or filler words like "ah" or "well." Conversely, overly quick defensive answers can be an attempt to shut down further inquiry before the emotional dissonance becomes too visible. Beyond body language and speech patterns, the content of what is said also holds clues. When a person's explanations begin to shift, change, or contradict earlier statements, it signals their internal struggle to maintain consistency. This inconsistency reflects the emotional tension of someone trying to protect a secret while presenting a trustworthy front. The more that person feels the pressure to sustain this facade, the more their emotional dissonance intensifies and the more evident these contradictions become. In many cases, the betrayer will unconsciously try to deflect attention away from the core issues by introducing confusion, blame, or excessive detail in unrelated areas. This is a defense mechanism aimed at distracting from the emotional conflict that the right question has triggered. But such overcompensation is itself a sign of dissonance. It's an attempt to fill the uncomfortable silence or redirect the conversation away from the painful truth that threatens to emerge. When someone betrays trust in a relationship, the way they present themselves and their behavior often reflects a complex interplay between what they want others to see and what they are trying to hide. The concept of integrity as a mirror helps us understand this dynamic deeply. Integrity at its core is about wholeness and consistency between one's values, words, and actions. When a person acts with integrity, their external behavior matches their inner principles and commitment. When someone is hiding a betrayal, especially cheating, this wholeness fractures, and what they project to the outside world is often a carefully constructed facade designed to conceal the broken pieces within. A cheating woman, aware of the deception she carries, instinctively projects a version of herself that aligns with loyalty, love, and commitment because she knows these qualities are what her partner expects and deserves. This projection acts as a shield, a defensive mechanism that serves to protect her from suspicion and confrontation. Yet this outward projection, no matter how convincing, often contains subtle signs of the inner turmoil she experiences. The key to understanding this dynamic lies in recognizing how projection works as a psychological process. Projection, in psychological terms, is when a person attributes their own unacceptable feelings, motives, or desires onto someone else. In the case of a cheating woman, this might mean that she accuses her partner of being untrustworthy, inattentive, or emotionally distant. By projecting these qualities outward, she redirects attention away from her own betrayal and deflects suspicion. This not only protects her secret, but also helps manage her internal guilt by convincing herself that the blame lies elsewhere. Another common projection is confusion. When confronted with questions about the relationship or fidelity, she may act bewildered or bewilder her partner with inconsistent stories or contradictory statements. This confusion is not always deliberate. It often emerges from the psychological stress of maintaining two realities. The one she lives with her partner and the secret one she lives elsewhere. The cognitive load required to sustain this double life causes mental fatigue, resulting in slips, inconsistencies, and a scattered emotional presentation. Defensiveness is another hallmark of projection in this context. When the cheating woman is questioned or even mildly challenged, her immediate reaction may be to defend herself vigorously. This defensiveness can take many forms: anger, denial, shifting blame, or even playing the victim. Each of these responses serves the same function: to protect the fragile image she has created and to avoid confronting the reality of her actions. It's important to understand that defensiveness in these cases is not merely stubbornness or rudeness. It is a deep psychological attempt to maintain control over the narrative and stave off feelings of shame and exposure. The fractured integrity behind these projections creates a profound tension in the relationship. The partner senses this tension, even if they cannot immediately identify its source. Because humans are naturally attuned to authenticity, people can often sense when someone's words don't quite match their actions, or when the emotional atmosphere feels off. This subtle awareness can create unease, mistrust, and suspicion. The partner may feel something is wrong, but struggle to put their finger on what it is, because the cheating woman's projection is designed to obscure, confuse, and mislead. An essential insight here is that the projection of blame or confusion is not a sign of weakness alone, it is also a sign of the betrayer's own psychological pain. Maintaining a facade that contradicts one's true actions fractures the self. This fracture often manifests as inner conflict, guilt, and anxiety, which can sometimes lead to erratic or contradictory behavior. You may say one thing and do another, promise fidelity and then act in betrayal, express love and yet emotionally distance yourself. This inconsistency is not random. It is a symptom of the divided self trying to hold together a false narrative. For the person who suspects betrayal, understanding projection is crucial. It means recognizing that when a cheating woman deflects blame or appears confused, these are not just tactics of evasion, but also windows into her fractured integrity. Her external persona is a reflection of the hidden truth she fears to face. When you observe her projecting blame onto you or acting bewildered, what you are really witnessing is the struggle of someone whose internal moral compass is broken, someone trying desperately to keep their deception hidden even from themselves. This understanding shifts the dynamic from one of pure confrontation to one of insight and clarity. It allows the questioner to see beyond the surface level defenses and consider what the projection reveals about the state of the relationship and the person they once trusted. It also helps to avoid getting trapped in endless arguments or power struggles that only deepen confusion and pain. Instead, the focus moves toward identifying patterns of projection, noticing inconsistencies, and patiently seeking the underlying truth. It is important to note that projection does not always come in obvious or dramatic form. Sometimes it is subtle, almost imperceptible, small repeated behaviors such as constantly changing the subject, dismissing concerns as paranoia, or appearing overly concerned with the partner's flaws can be manifestations of projection. These patterns accumulate and create an atmosphere where honesty is difficult to achieve, trust erodes, and emotional distance grows. In the broader psychological context, projection serves as a defense mechanism to reduce anxiety and protect the ego from uncomfortable truths. For the cheating woman, this defense is often necessary for survival in the short term, but destructive in the long term. It creates a cycle where the more she projects and defends, the more isolated and estranged she becomes from her partner, and the deeper the fracture in her own sense of integrity grows. For the partner seeking truth and healing, recognizing projection as a symptom of fractured integrity offers a path forward. It encourages approaching the situation not merely with suspicion or anger, but with a clear-eyed understanding of what projection signifies. This understanding does not excuse betrayal, but it frames it within a context of human complexity and psychological struggle. This perspective also highlights the importance of asking questions that pierce through projection. Rather than engaging with the deflections, accusations, or confusion head-on, it is more effective to return to questions about core values, shared goals, and emotional honesty. When a cheating woman is confronted not with accusations, but with sincere inquiries into the heart of the relationship, the projections begin to falter because they cannot answer the deeper questions without revealing their inner conflict. Ultimately, integrity as a mirror means that what a person projects outward is often a reflection of what they are struggling to hide inside. For a cheating woman, this projection is both a mask and a signal. It is a mask designed to protect herself and her secret, but also a signal to those who are willing to see beyond the surface that something is profoundly wrong. The challenge for the betrayed partner is to learn how to read these signals accurately and to respond with a combination of courage, patience, and self-respect. By doing so, they can navigate the painful process of uncovering truth, understanding the fractured integrity beneath the facade, and deciding how to move forward with clarity and dignity. There is a question so powerful, so deceptively simple, that it can pierce through the layers of deception, confusion, and emotional barricades that a cheating woman might erect around herself. This question does not confront her with direct accusation, nor does it demand an immediate confession. Instead, it forces her to reflect on the very foundation of the relationship she is a part of, a foundation built on trust, shared values, and a common vision of a future together. The question is, are you still proud of the life we're building together? This question operates on multiple levels simultaneously, which is why it is so effective. It challenges the betrayer not just to consider the factual elements of the relationship, but to engage emotionally and morally with what their actions mean. It demands a self-assessment that goes beyond words, compelling her to confront the alignment or misalignment between her current behavior and the commitments she once made. When a woman cheats, the damage is rarely limited to physical or emotional infidelity alone. It fractures the shared meaning of the relationship. The life being built together symbolizes much more than just cohabitation or daily routines. It represents shared dreams, mutual sacrifices, and a future imagined and hoped for by both partners. This question forces the person to reckon with what they have contributed to that shared vision and what they may be tearing apart. The power of this question lies in its capacity to reveal contradictions. If she answers affirmatively, expressing pride and commitment, it becomes difficult for her to maintain a facade of secrecy without an internal conflict. On the other hand, if she hesitates, avoids answering, or answers negatively, she inadvertently exposes her emotional and moral disconnect from the relationship's core. This question is not simply about exposing cheating, it's about illuminating the internal struggle that betrayal engenders. A cheating woman may have convinced herself, through various justifications, that her actions are acceptable or excusable. But when confronted with the reality of what she is dismantling, she is forced to face the truth that cheating undermines pride in the partnership. Pride is not a shallow emotion. It is tied to integrity, respect, and a sense of accomplishment. If she can no longer be proud of the life they share, it means that the betrayal has not only affected the trust, but also the very identity of the relationship. The beauty of asking this question is that it removes the immediate pressure of direct confrontation. It invites reflection rather than defense. It opens a door for honesty because it appeals to something intrinsic and difficult to fake. A person's genuine feelings about their own actions and the consequences of those actions on something greater than themselves. Pride is an internal gauge of alignment between values and behavior. When someone is out of alignment, the discord shows through subtle but undeniable signs. Moreover, this question invites a conversation about responsibility. It implicitly asks her to consider whether she is willing to take ownership of how her choices affect the future they are supposed to be building together. This ownership is crucial because it moves the dynamic beyond victimhood and blame toward accountability and potential healing. If the answer reveals disconnection, it presents an opportunity for a frank dialogue about where things stand, rather than hiding behind lies or avoidance. It also requires the questioner to hold a space of emotional strength and vulnerability simultaneously. Asking, "Are you still proud of the life we're building together?" means being ready to accept whatever truth comes in response. It means not allowing fear of pain to prevent the pursuit of clarity. It also means preparing to respond not with anger or accusations, but with measured honesty and an openness to confront what must be faced. This question can trigger intense emotional reactions because it strikes at the heart of identity and values. For a cheating woman, pride in the relationship is complicated by guilt, shame, or denial. She may react with defensiveness, confusion, or even anger, but those reactions themselves can be revealing. They indicate that the question has struck a nerve, a sign that the integrity of the relationship is under threat. When this question is posed calmly and sincerely, it disarms typical defenses. It shows that the asker is not interested in a fight or superficial answers, but in genuine understanding. This tone encourages the responder to lower their guard, even if only slightly, allowing cracks to form in the protective emotional armor. The question does not demand a yes or no immediately. It invites contemplation, which is often more revealing than any rehearsed denial. In addition to exposing emotional misalignment, the question can also shed light on future intentions. A cheating woman who is no longer proud of the life being built together is implicitly signaling that the relationship may be at risk. Her answer may open the door to discussions about whether the relationship can be repaired or if it has reached an irreparable breaking point. This question also works because it reframes the conversation from "are you cheating?", a question that invites denial and defensiveness, to a broader inquiry about shared values and emotional truth. It shifts the focus from blame to reflection, from accusation to dialogue. This reframing is essential for maintaining dignity on both sides and for creating the possibility of honest communication. The question holds the potential to catalyze transformation. Whether the relationship continues or ends, it compels both partners to face reality. For the one asking, it is a way to reclaim agency and clarity. For the one answering, it is a moment of reckoning, a confrontation with the consequences of choices made in secrecy. Importantly, this question is not a magic bullet. It will not instantly resolve the situation, but it is a strategic and psychologically insightful tool that disrupts the narrative a cheating woman may have constructed around her actions. It pulls her gaze inward, breaking through denial and evasion, and demands engagement with the truth that is uncomfortable but necessary for anyone navigating the painful uncertainty of betrayal. This question is a powerful starting point. It embodies courage, clarity, and emotional intelligence. It demands honesty, not through accusation.